Clutch Chess Tournament in St. Louis. Four best chess players in the world competing against each other. Current world champion, 19-year-old Demaraja Gukesh from India, former world champion and possibly the best player of all time, Magnus Carlsen from Norway, second highest ranked player in the world, 5 times US champion Hikaru Nakamura, and third highest ranked player in the world, current US champion Fabiano Caruana. Let's take a look at the highlights of day one, and please stick around till the end of the video to witness an absolutely beautiful attack Gukesh unleashed on his opponent. But let's start with the game between Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura. We have a bishop endgame. Caruana is playing white. He has an extra pawn, 4 against 3, and black's move. Hikaru can play king g6 to attack the pawn on h6 and seemingly win it, but that loses to a beautiful sacrifice of the bishop. Bishop takes f5, and if king takes f5, h7, and the pawn is going to be promoted to a queen. Therefore, Hikaru plays bishop e4, and here Fabiano shows his endgame technique and plays a beautiful move, g4, and you cannot take the pawn on g4 because white will take the bishop on e4. Hikaru plays king g6 and runs into g takes f5 check, and Hikaru resigns. The reason he resigns, if he takes the pawn with the king, bishop takes e4, king takes e4, and the pawn is going to be promoted in a couple of moves. Next game I want to show you. Gukesh Damaraja playing against Magnus Carlsen. This is the position, and Gukesh has a little advantage because of this pawn on a5. Is going to be a queen in 3 moves, but not so easy. He moves it forward, a6. Rook e1 from Magnus. The knight on f1 is going to get attacked by both the queen and the rook, and there is a checkmate on the way. So Gukesh protects it with the queen. Queen b5, seemingly a good move, but here comes an absolutely marvelous move by Magnus Carlsen, out of this world sacrifice of a bishop. Bishop c5. I mean, what is that? The bishop is under attack by both the queen and the bishop. If the queen takes on c5, then obviously checkmate in one move, rook takes f1. And if the bishop takes on c5, then knight e5. And no defense from knight f3, checkmate. And that's basically the whole idea of the move bishop c5, to deflect either the queen or the bishop, and the bishop deflecting from the square e5 where the knight will go. So Gukesh plays queen d3, which is the best move in this position, and Magnus exchanges the bishop on d4 and unleashes a devastating move. First, rook a1, I'm sorry, just to prevent the pawn from getting promoted, and after, a rook d1, which was a big mistake. Here is the move, knight f4, knight f4, and if Gukesh takes the knight on f4, queen g4 check, and he wins the rook. In this position, Gukesh was overwhelmed by a lot of ideas how to protect the position, but it was pretty much unprotectable because queen g2 checkmate is on the way as well, and he lost. He ran out of time. He couldn't make a move. Another game, Hikaru Nakamura playing white against Gukesh. Gukesh lost his first game to Magnus, and he was ready for revenge. He played a beautiful game. He has an extra pawn here, and the extra pawn is the passing pawn on c4, and he just moves it forward with the move c3. Hikaru responds with king h2, and Gukesh, who is playing black, just moves the pawn forward against c2, and it turns out you cannot take it with the knight because of the move rook c3, and it pins the knight, and white will lose a piece. So after c2, Hikaru tries to create some counterplay with the move h5, but Gukesh is precise. A rook a5, and he is saying, you know, Magnus, I'm gonna take the pawn on h5. And how do you protect it? Pretty much you cannot protect it. If you do, and Hikaru tried with queen g4, then the pawn on f2 becomes loose, and Gukesh takes it with the queen, and Hikaru resigns because the position is totally dismantled. Next move would be queen takes e3. There is pretty much no way to defend the pawn on e3. Then the rook on c1 would be under attack, and the pawn from c2 is gonna get promoted. Beautiful win by Gukesh. Next game I want to show you is the endgame between Fabiano Caruana and Gukesh is playing black. He has an extra pawn and shows a beautiful technique of how to convert this type of positions. Rook c3 check first. King moves back to f2. Another check, king g2, and rook a3, attacking the pawn on a4. But Fabiano Caruana plays rook d5 check, and after king e4, he takes the pawn on a5 and protects the pawn on a4. Seemingly, everything is okay for white, but not so fast. Rook a2 check, king goes back, and king f3. And now there is no way to defend the pawn on g3. Therefore, Caruana takes the pawn on h5, king takes g3, and with the next move, rook a1 is a checkmate. So therefore, Caruana has to protect it, and he plays rook f5. But here comes rook a1 check. Rook f1 is the only way to block the check. Rook takes f1, king takes f1, and king h2. And after a5 and g3, a6, g2 check, Fabiano resigns, as after his next move, let's say king e2, there is a promotion to a queen, and the queen is on time to prevent white to promote their passing pawn. And finally, the game of the evening was between Gukesh and Fabiano Caruana. And Gukesh unleashed a simply marvelous attack on his opponent. He starts it with the move bishop d3. He attacks the rook. And Caruana takes the pawn on d5, which turned out to be a big mistake. Now a quiet move from Gukesh, king h1. And the idea of this move is to double the rooks on the g file, with the next move, a rook from c1 to g1. Fabiano Caruana plays bishop b7, rook g1, the rooks are doubled. Knight takes b5, and now Gukesh doesn't even take back. He plays an astonishing move. Bishop f6, sacrificing the bishop. Fabiano takes the bishop on f6. Queen takes f4. And it turns out that there is no defense from a checkmate on h6. Fabiano still tries to prevent it with bishop g5. He gives up the bishop. Rook takes g5. Queen d8, because queen f6 was a threat. And here, Gukesh could win in different ways. But he chooses an absolutely beautiful rook sacrifice. Rook g8 check. Caruana resigned. The only move, rook takes g8 and queen h6 checkmate. Let's take a look at the standings after day one. Gukesh is leading with 4 points. Magnus Carlsen, 3.5 points. Hikaru Nakamura with 3 points. And Fabiano Caruana with 1.5 points. If you like the video, I would appreciate if you can like and subscribe. And I'll see you with more highlights of day 2. Thank you for watching.